Good morning, everyone. It's Cheryl from Tinker's Card Art. Hello. It's President's Day, so a lot of people are home, so I hope you guys will join in and watch me paint this morning. We're going to paint something fun, something springy. I'm in New England, and honestly, we've had some pretty springy weather these days. We've had cold weather, but then we've had warmer days, so it's been crazy weather-wise. So thank you for stopping in, and we're going to get painting in just a few minutes. So say hello when you come in. I'd love to know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see who's closest and who's furthest away. So do say hello. I'm going to bring you up on my computer, so if you have questions as we go along, put them in. I'll try to answer them. If I don't get to them, I will sit down as soon as I'm done, and I will, of course, answer them then. So good morning. Say hello. Let me know that you can see everything okay. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what we're going to paint. This morning, we're going to paint a spring scene, super easy. Good morning, Cheryl. Hey, Patty. This is so easy. You don't need a tracer. You can paint it freehand. If you've never painted before, this is a great project to jump in and take a look at. So, oh, hi, Sharon. And Sparky Chris, thank you for watching. We just had Cheryl from MNC before us. Did you see her segment? I love the Easter design. I love the metallic. I love the gold. And so stick around and we're going to paint some more. So if you haven't painted before, different surfaces you can paint on. This was on a piece of canvas, but let me move it so I can use it as a little guide. And you can paint it on a stretched canvas. You can paint it on canvas paper. If you just want to practice a little bit, take some mixed media paper, a pad of mixed media. I go through this and I paint some of my samples and things in here. I would coat it with some gesso first, but you don't have to worry about jumping in and, using a new canvas and not having it come out right. I'm going to paint on a piece of canvas artboard today, which I love because I can store these samples easy. It's very stiff. It's a little heavier than the canvas paper. It's mounted on like a mat board. Comes in pads, all different sizes. Good morning, Debbie. Welcome. Thank you. Let me know if you are first time. I'm here on my Tinker's Card Art Facebook page. I'm here on Craft Round the Clocks. This is my segment there too. So if you have not checked that out, please do. I have a link in the description. Crafters all day, 40 for 45 minutes, something new. Hey, Denise. So I'm just using my acrylic paints this morning. Simple amount of colors. We don't have a lot here. What I use for brushes are just some synthetic brushes. They're not pricey. So if you haven't started painting yet, you could jump into painting without a big investment. I like to show people very simply the primary colors that they can use and mix, and just a little bit of supplies just to get started to see how much you're going to love it. So I'm using a combination today. I'm using my Liquitex. There's the basics fluid acrylic. They're not expensive. This is a 4 ounce. It might be like $4.99. I also use some of the Deco Art 2 ounce craft paint. Again, very affordable. So what I'm using this morning, I've got some white, I've got some black, I've got a phthalo green and blue, which I love. Those two colors, you can mix all your greens and so many colors with it. Just a primary yellow. I've got a that magenta, quinacridone magenta, or alizarin crimson, and a purple. And so let's just jump in with those colors. You could change this design up and paint colors any color you want to. So thank you for watching. Hey, Joe. Hey, Sharon. Laurel, thanks for joining. Like I said, we don't really have to do a tracer on this. I'm going to simply just sketch a line for my horizon line. I'm going to go a little higher than center so that we have room for all the little flowers and things. And then we'll have some dragonflies up here. I'm going to paint dragonflies on mine. You could put bees, you could put a hummingbird, you could put all sorts of little elements on there. So here we go. We're just going to paint sky and land the grass first. Start at the top because that way I'm not going to put my hand in it, especially if you're working on a big canvas. I'm just going to take a big wide, it's like a 1-inch brush. Whatever brushes you have will work. This is how I paint my skies all the time. This one does not have clouds in it, but you can easily add clouds. This is all my skies are pretty much this way. I just take a little tiny bit of blue on my brush into the white, and I don't even worry about mixing it up too much because I like to have it a little natural looking. I want to have some lights and darks as I go. And I'm going to just paint my sky with these crisscrossy strokes just for a little texture. And as I go, I'm working left to right, so that I can work wet into wet, so that I can, if I want to, take a little just blue and get a darker section in there if I prefer to have that. If I want to just take a little white, I can get it a little lighter. I'm a painterly painter. I like to see my brush strokes. If you like that look, then just do what I'm doing and move along. But if you like a smoother, softer sky, you want it all one shade, so easy. You just use the brush and you just really just keep brushing it, and look at how soft an effect you can get. I prefer to have a little light and dark. So I'm going to just go across and just continue doing what I'm doing right across for the sky. I'm not worrying about a perfect line. I don't want a perfect line down where the grasses are going to come up. I'm going to just work my way across. And actually, maybe I'll show you how I do a cloud, just so that you know how easy that can be. So I work my way across, brush it a little bit to see if I like the look. As I'm going across, if I want to put a cloud in, I want to do it when this paint is wet. So what I might do is just wipe off my brush on a paper towel. I'm not going to wash it in the water. I might take a tiny bit of white just on the corner of my brush. I want you to be able to see my palette a little bit. The corner of my brush, just a little bit. And I just sort of very lightly put in where I might, look, I'm painting upside down. What a trick, right? I have the corner of the brush where the white is to the top. I like a heavier edge on the top of my clouds. Because this blue is wet, it's softly blending as I put it in, so it's just a little subtle wisp of a cloud. I'll go back later and I'll brighten it up a little bit, but I'd rather start like this than paint my sky, come back and paint a white cloud on top, which will not blend at that point because your acrylic's dry, and you're going to get a big white blob that looks like it was pasted onto your sky. So I do it as I go along. As I'm going along with my sky, I might decide, oh, I'm going to put a little cloud in over here. That's when I just take the corner of the brush in some white and put it towards the top. It could be just very wispy and light in the background. And you can see I have sort of a little method of my clouds. I start them a little, I'm going to do one right under that. I start them just a little bit, almost in straight a little bit, make some big bumps, and then just kind of bring it out so it has that sort of shape. It's not just, because the clouds aren't really just big oval blobs. They're all sorts of shapes, but you want to avoid having it really pasted on, looking like it's pasted on. So why I like the heavier line at the top, the bottom just fades into the background and it just looks like a more natural cloud, right? And then I just keep going and I finish off my sky. So our little painting here this morning is going to have some clouds in it, unlike my sample. I just wanted to show you how easy it is. Oh, Barb, you just started painting last month. Yay. I try to get across to people that anytime in life, just start painting. It doesn't have to be, I wasn't born with the talent. Oh, I can't draw. I provide tracers from my painters. I go step by baby step. And isn't it about having fun? I might not be good at playing bridge, but if I'm having fun, I'm going to play, you know. I might not be good at cooking, but if someone shows me how to cook and I see a video and someone walks me through it, then I can follow the recipe. So, pretty quick sky. What I would do afterwards is I just wipe my brush off again, because I don't want to go with a big strong bit of white. I want the brush to be a little dirty. Take some of my white again, just like I did on the tip. If it's a big glob like that, I might just pat it off a tiny bit. And I'll go back now as this paint is drying. If I want to, I could leave it like that, real subtle, cloudy day, or I could go back in and just, in some sections, brighten it up. I'm doing it upside down, so it might be a little wonky looking, but it doesn't look too bad, right? And then you can kind of just do a little bit more. Subtle cloud in the back, kind of a little bit more definition. And they're fun to play with. And remember, we're painting in acrylics. This isn't the end of the world. If you don't like it, just paint over it. It's, you know. And I could paint all my paintings. Oh, Lois, thank you. Thank you for letting other people. If you guys have friends that are painters or might want to paint, please let them know I'm here painting. It's great for all of us to get some exposure that way. So now what was that? See, I go off on a tangent and I forget what I was talking about. But I just want people to know that it's not something that only certain people can do. If you want to have fun, jump in and start painting. Okay, I'm going to leave my sky just like that. That's really all I need. Now I'm going to paint all of those grasses that are behind my flowers first. I'm going to go darker. I paint dark to light a lot of times, and that way, if I have a dark base, I can start pulling out lighter colors as I go in the very last coat, especially in acrylics. You can put nice bright highlights. So I need to start dark so that those light areas will show up. Oh, Kathy, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to try to watch, and if you have questions, I'm going to try to address them. I know I kind of go along at a little bit of a quick pace, but that's because I like to work wet and wet sometimes. So I want those paint colors to mix. Other times I want them to dry, but sometimes I go at a quicker pace so that I can make these acrylic paints act a little more like oils where I have a little drying time and I can mix a lot more. But I do love acrylics for the ease and the water. You know, you clean your brushes off in water and everything. So anyway, I want a dark blue, like dark green, like I said, on the base. So this phthalo, I love this phthalo green. It mixes into my yellow, my primary yellow, and I can make all shades of beautiful greens with these two colors. But because I want a little darker back there, that's a little see-through, I'm going to add a little blue maybe to that. Maybe just the teeniest touch of black. I just want a dark kind of a blue-green even, just for the base, because then when I pull those lighter shades out, the little light green grasses are going to really pop. If I started any lighter and I put a light green blade of grass, you're not going to really notice it that much. You can see I'm sort of using these crisscrossy strokes again, just to cover the canvas, and I'm just going to cover that canvas. I'm going to have a lot on top of it, a lot of little great blades of grass, a lot of little flowers. So if I don't get every little tiny bit covered exact, I'm not worried about it. But I'm going to do the best I can. I'm becoming quite the upside down painter. Oh, thank you, Brenda. I like to, I just try to make it easy. I don't want people to be intimidated and not try. I have so many stories of people that have really love art, really want to paint, but oh, you know, someone in 3rd grade told them they couldn't paint, the art teacher didn't let them in class, something crazy, you know, crazy stuff. And I think everybody, I don't care what the paintings come out looking like, if you're having fun while you're doing it, that's what's important to me. I think art brings joy into people's lives, and I want to share that. And so now I'm going to cover that in a little bit better. Again, I mix on my palette as I go because I want some areas to be lighter green, some to be darker. I'm not going to mix up the perfect shade of dark green and just use that pile of paint. I like it to vary it. When I get to where the grass blades are going to come up, I'm going to use the same brush. You could switch to a smaller one. What's great about these flat brushes is you can get heavy, big strokes, but look, you can also use it on the chisel edge and get little thin strokes. I'm thinning it down because when I'm doing a thinner stroke, I want it to be a nice thin line. And even as wide as this brush is, I can get some really thin lines. So I'm going to go along, and I'm not worrying about the directions. I'm just getting a little bit of a jagged line. I just don't want a straight line across. I want these little blades of grass to go up into my sky. And I'm going to switch over to a finer brush, but I might just pull into a little green here just so I get a little bit of a different shade. You can use a smaller flat brush now or a liner. I'll show you both of those. I'm going to use my flat brushes first, and at the end then go in with my liner brush and get some really nice feathery little light strokes. Hi Cheryl, thank you Cheryl, and I loved your segment. That was so fun. That is such a cute piece for Easter. I'm loving seeing all of the Easter projects, spring projects, St. Patrick's Day. So keep tuned onto the Craft Around the Clock page because we have lots of other crafters coming up today, which is so cool. All right, so now I'm taking just some yellow. This green's a little bit wet, so maybe I will just mix in a lighter yellow with my green, phthalo green and yellow, primary yellow there. And it's going to be a little subtle. It's going to just blend in. I'm going to add a little white eventually to give that some oomph and have it pop. So, oh, Barb, I'd love to see your beach scene. Yes, please. Please share it. I love it when you guys share your paintings on my page. Share your ideas. Get to know the other creatives in the group. I've got a link in the my description for my private free art group. I also have paid art memberships, and you can find that information here and there, or just let me know. But it is a fun group. Okay, so now I'm just getting a little bit of grass is popping up. I'm going to work my way right down to the bottom, and I would work from the top down like this so that the grasses all sort of fall in the right direction. Can you see how they're going to all fall in the right direction? If we started down here and then worked up, we would cut off our nice little thin grasses. So I like, if I'm doing fir or if I'm doing grasses, I'm going to work here down so I can bring those little strokes up. And I have a nice dark base, so I don't have to do too much dark strokes. They really won't show. But now I'm just taking that blue-green mix or the green mix with yellow, making some strokes, and I can vary this color up by adding a little white to it. But right now I'm going right along to get some texture. I might use some of the blue-green from here and add a little of that. And I'm going to work my way right down to the bottom, like I said. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to just get that nice... I'm going back up here quickly just because I can see a lot of the little white edges. So I'm just filling that in a tiny bit before I keep moving down. But anyways, if I pick up a lot of the dark green as I go, I just wipe it off. I don't wash my brush between this because I don't want it to get water in here and have the paint translucent and thin. I'd rather keep it, just wipe it off and go into my next color. It doesn't show up a lot with just this yellow. The yellow is transparent, but that's okay. It's a subtle build up to the very bright lime green colors. We're going to light green colors that we're going to put on top. And then we just scatter our flowers in there. I'm going to show you a couple techniques for those flowers that are so simple, and you could change them up quite a bit by just changing the colors. Use the same technique, but you can just change the colors. And I'm just going to bring this up, make sure that you can. Let me know too if you can't see. I try to keep this sort of so in your sight line there. But if I start moving it and you don't see it, please let me know. Hey, Kathy. Kathy is simple. This is a simple painting, and even my complicated paintings I make simple because I just go, like I said, baby step by baby step. Of course, there's more complicated paintings, but I give you a tracer for those. I show you exactly how to go along, exactly what colors and what not to use. So jump in and try painting. How many out there are painters? Let me know if you guys are painters. I can see some of your comments here. Oh, Deb, I'm glad. That's my goal. Make it look possible. It is possible. What's the worst that can happen? Right? Have you looked at some of the paintings out there, like some of the different paintings in museums even? It's what you interpret and it's your vision and colors you like, and that's all that counts. All right. Hey, Charlotte. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Darlene. Okay, so now I want to take that color I've been using. It's kind of a lighter green, but I'm adding a little white. Yellow's super transparent. If you have any colors that are transparent, add a tad of white to it, and you're going to get a more opaque color. So I'm going to just go up now, and you can see these little strokes are getting a little bit brighter. Putting that white in there. I'm going to go with this, work my way down with this lighter shade, and then I might take some even lighter ones, and I'll show you how I use the liner brush too. That's kind of fun. But can you see how nice these little strokes are popping here? Oops, here. It's because of the addition of the white and the dark background. So we don't want to get rid of that whole dark background, otherwise these guys aren't going to show. I could even do some yellow, little light yellow strokes too. I probably will not get the much longer strokes than this. In the very front, where the grass is a little closer to you, I could get a nice long stroke. So don't, use about the same. These are a couple inches long. I'm just going along. Sometimes they're straight up. Sometimes I give them a little curve. At this point, if your paint is kind of dragging, add a few drops of water to your paint. I just take a few drops, add it to my paint. I do that a lot while I'm painting. The acrylics dry fast. If you're painting and you say, oh, I can't get a nice thin line like that, it's maybe because your paint is too thick. If your paint is too thick, it's not going to budge, and your brush is going to drag, and you're going to give it more pressure, and then you end up with a thick line. Very, very thin paint, really light stroke, hardly touch the canvas, and just a little practice, you can get those really light paint strokes, those thin paint strokes too. I have a question. Barb, yes. And you know what? You have to just keep in mind that when you're painting this is how close you are. Who looks at the painting this close? No one is ever going to look at it that close. You're going to look at it from 4 or 5 feet away. So do step back. If I'm at the easel, it's ideal because you can step back all the time. If I'm at a table or sitting at an easel, remember to get up and back up. I paint a lot of times a little bit more, I don't want to say abstractly, but kind of loose and abstracty. And this close, you wouldn't even tell what it is, but you step back and it all comes together. So yes, remember that And I'm not striving for realistic, to be honest. I used to, and I think we all did when we started. That was the goal. Have someone say, oh my God, your painting looks like a photograph. And it would be like, oh my God, my painting looks like a photograph. Look at me, I'm great. I don't want it to look like a photograph anymore. I can take a photograph. That's struggling and hard. I want it to be fun, loose, bright colors, whimsical, give people, you know, a happy feeling. Everybody has their own style. There's nothing wrong with painting realistic if it's your jam. But for me, it was a struggle, and I would rather have fun and do this, you know, because we don't, you know, you can have a photograph. I want something with a little, even my pet portraits, they end up looking like the pets. People love them, but they're not looking like a photograph of the pet. They're given a little personality in there, a little color, maybe color where it wouldn't be. So don't worry about trying to get it to look like a photograph or to look like mine, because, and I know I've said it before, and you're probably tired of hearing it, when I paint this painting, and I'm copying my painting right here, it's not gonna look anything like my painting, because I can't even make my painting look like my painting. So if you're painting and saying, my painting doesn't look like yours, well, that's not the goal of the end result either. I want it to look like yours. That's the important thing. Yeah. Barb, you're funny. Okay, so here's a lot of grasses. I know it's a little white in here. I probably will pull more up. But if you want to get even more fine ones, and you mightn't even need it, but just to show you, I love these little liner brushes. The reason they have this long tip is because they can hold a lot of paint, and you can get a lot more of a brush strokes or a lot longer brush stroke. And if you just use your little detail brush, you can get a little brush stroke. But these guys really thin your paint down in water. I'm going to add a little white even more so you can see these strokes a little better. And I'm really adding water. And these brushes are so great for fur, details, little shrubs and bushes. And like I said, down here I might do a little bit longer, but see the strokes, how I can get a nice long stroke. And I'm really adding a little white there. You can see, you wouldn't go over the whole thing and have all that bright white, but you could put a few, and I may even do that with some yellow. So I might put a few in here. Just, you see that one on the bottom, how it just sort of stands out there? Remember, we have a lot of flowers going on here, so we don't want to get too detailed either on that. It's not like, we don't want it too busy, but I'm going to throw a little of those in because I just like to use this brush. And then you can look at your painting, what you have so far. You might want to put a little more clouds. You might make darker, lighter sky, but I kind of like it the way it is. And we're going to have some dragonflies there, so we don't want to get too busy with clouds and other things. We want to put our dragonflies in. So I think I'm going to put those in now. Let this dry a little bit for our flowers. Put our little dragonflies in. Let me see if I can paint dragonflies upside down. So their bodies are black, dark. But I don't like to use black by itself very often. I like to mix blue or purple or something with it so it has a little bit more oomph and is a little brighter. If I'm using a gray for anything, I always mix blue in with my gray so that it's not just a dull gray. I want to have a little spark of color. So I will use black for the body, but I will add it, I would make it mostly purple. So I've got my nice dark purple. And this is purple, and I just have one purple in my kit. It's the dioxazine, did I say it right? Yeah, dioxazine purple. Because I can make that lighter with white. I can make it more of a red purple with some red. So I try to narrow down my list of colors that I'm using to the basics, show you the basics, show you how to mix. But if you want, of course, you can buy all the colors. It's fun to have all of the colors, right? But these can all be mixed too, so depending on if you want the ease of having it handy there. So I'm using the purple, I'm taking a little black to it. So it's kind of more of a dark purple, really. Like an eggplanty color. When I make dragonflies, I simply start with a little round head on them. That's just how I start. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a little round head. And I make a little body. It's a little thicker and it gets thinner at the tail. So I just use the same brush, I load it with paint, I sort of press a little bit, and then I lift the brush off the canvas. Could almost be the body of a butterfly too. It's just a circle and then that little line, and I give him two little tiny antennas. I know it's kind of crazy, but he gets two little antennas. So we can make one there. Let's make one over here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of put down a circle. Now, if you really wanted to and you didn't want to paint the circle, you could take the back end of your brush, you could dip it in your paint, and you could just make your circle like that. It doesn't have to be hard. And let me put my brush in the water there to rinse that off. Okay, so to get the body, really it was one stroke. I, again, add a little water. I want the paint to be more like ink, not like heavy, thick paint. And I'm just going to go and just make sure, press, and then pull up, and I just get a little thinner back, end of the back there. And little tiny antennas. It's just 2 little lines, very light, not to worry. And that is their bodies. We're kind of goofy flying around with that, but let's give them some wings. I like to make the wings look transparent, and it's super easy. Let me tell you how. I've washed my brush off because I'm going into white now, and I don't want to have like a purple white. I want a white. I'm taking my little white paint. I'll pull it over here. I want this to be really watery, like watercolor watery, not watery that's going to drip off my canvas, but I'm working flat, so it's not too bad. But I want to be able to see through that. I want it to be transparent. I'm going to make a couple of, it's going to be harder to see because I put a cloud here. I'd almost think I would think about it more next time and keep the background a little darker behind them. But I'm going to make 2 of these kind of ovally shapes. And I'm filling it in, but the white is a little see-through. You see it's a little see-through. I actually went a little far back on his body. That should be more like this. Let's change that shape a little bit. Okay, same here. We're going to, and like I said, it's gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? You'll see what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make that look a little bit, maybe stand out a little bit more. It's basically two shapes, but because the paint is really thin, I'm just putting it on there and letting it see through. You can always go a little heavier if you need to, but go bit by bit. That way you don't want solid coverage. I might have it a little whiter down towards the bottom. And same here, a little here maybe. And what makes it show up is we're going to put some heavier white outlining and little vein lines. I like to put a little bit, since I have that white on my brush, I like to put a little outline on the bodies. It's simply just going around the back side with a white line, maybe even a little on the antennas. Can you see? I just see that little bit of a white I put on the back side of his head and body. Just makes him stand out a little more. And it's the same thing on the other one. Just a little bit of an outline, just on the top edge. And for the wings, now I'm going straight into the heavy white. I know I always do try to water it down, but I want it thick here so you can see, and I'm going to outline those wings. I'm just outlining them kind of heavy. Forgive the shape because they're upside down. A little outline. And then little veins, and they're just random little veins like you would put on a leaf or something. Butterfly. Bee. This is the same exact way as I do my bee wings. So it's just enough. It's subtle, but their little wings are see-through and fluttery, and you don't have to have them solid white and really screaming at you. Same thing, I'm just outlining them. And then I keep dipping in the paint because I want to keep that paint opaque. You could, if you let the paint dry really well, you could go in with a white paint marker and outline them if you felt a little more comfortable than that. Doing that, you could just get a paint marker. Just be sure your paint is really, really dry, because if you don't, even if the paint's a little damp, it will seize your marker right up. But I do love the Posca paint markers. So you can kind of see that if the sky was a little darker, or if I had painted them down here, the wings would show up a little more. It doesn't bother me. You can see on the sample actually how much darker my sky was, and like I said, I never paint the same thing twice the same way, but see, they're darker there. I guess I did the wings on both sides, so you could do that. I think I'll add that on because it's looking a little butterfly shaped to me this way. So I'm going to go back and do just what I did, just a little thin wash. Look how quick this could be. Just a little thin wash on the other side. I could leave one this way and one this way maybe. If the paint you're putting it on for the wing and it's a little bit heavy, you could always just dip into the water and just smush that around. You can pull some out if it needs to look more translucent. You can just dry off your brush and pull some paint right out. That gives it kind of a transparent look. And then just put those little veins in and outline. Just a little outline, a couple little veins. It's good to do that when this is dry. This is a little wet, but it'll still work. There, so I'm gonna leave my dragonflies like that. So what do you think? Wouldn't it be cute with bees? Or Charlotte just painted a hummingbird. We're going to do a hummingbird, I think, in the membership next month. We do in the art membership, it's the Tinker's Cardist membership. We do 2 sessions live together every month. So I do a painting with everyone, and then one of the sessions is more like a little tutorial, or we hang out and just paint what we want, or we look at, let's paint trees tonight, or clouds, or waves. I think next month we're going to do elements to add to your painting. So if you've got a painting like this, we're going to just paint dragonflies and bees and hummingbirds and different ladybugs, things you could add into paintings that you might already be doing. So it's really fun. I love the bees too, Kathy. We did it's not handy, but we did a little heart grapevine wreath last time with Be Mine or Be Kind with a little bee in it. It was cute. So now we're going to go ahead and just paint some flowers over here. We're going to freehand them. There's a couple of flowers. I'm going to do one that's sort of like a rose, but it's very simply some color and swirled. Some little just white daisy kind of flowers, one stroke with the brush. And then these guys could be fashioned after like a lilac, or what are the other? I'm not a green thumb person. The other little, I don't want to say hollyhocks, but there's other things that could look like anyway. So let's go ahead and start. Let's put those in first. And a lot of this is sort of like one stroke with your brush. You can use a little flat. Sometimes for flowers, I like to use a filbert, which filbert is just, as opposed to a flat that's just straight across the top, filbert is rounded. See the round shape? I like that sometimes for petals. I can give it a press and pull, and I get a nice petal. So that's kind of big. Let's go with this one. I'm going to use the flat brush. I can use it on the side, like I said, to get a thin line, and I can get it spread right out. And I'm going to go ahead and use the purple. So I'm going to go and use purple. It's not going to show up a lot on this white, this green, but I'm going to add white on top of it, and that'll bring it out. But the shape is going to be something like this. I'm going to start at the top and just make a stroke. So I'm using my flat brush, and I'm just pressing and pulling it, and I get a little shape like that. And what I'm going to do is, let's do it here. I'm just going to kind of work my way down with those shapes. So I'm giving it a little curve there, get a little straighter, put it in. I'm not worrying too much, but it's a great way to practice these little brush strokes and get a little wider as I go down. That's how I'm going to start. It's just hard to see on the dark color. I'm going to have some come right up over, so I don't have to worry. You know, I don't want them all just placed down here. I want to have them on top of one another sometimes. Just gather here and there. So just go about your painting and just put in these little strokes. Now, I kind of want to do it the white on top while it's a little wet. So I don't think I'll do all of them at once. I want to have this purple wet for the next stroke. So I'm going to just kind of figure out how many can I do before it dries. Let me do 4. Some could be a whole flower. Some could be just a little bit peeking out from behind something else. And now I'm going to just wipe my brush off with my paper towel. I'm not going to wash it. Again, if I got water in my brush now, it would not work as well. So I'm going to just wipe it off, go into my white. I want not a big brush load. I don't want a big brush load. I'm going to wipe some off. I just want a little white on there. And I'm going to go right over what I did. I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go press, pull. So it's still purple, but it's giving you that little highlight and blending in with that first coat nicely. And I like when it drags the purple in. Those are kind of big, but at least you can see me making them. You might, if you were painting, want to do them a little smaller. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to quickly go over while the paint's a little wet so that I could get a variation of purples. If that was completely dry, this stroke would be so bright white. I want it to mix and be a little brighter in some places, but in a lot of places just blending with the purple. So each flower, I take a little bit more white, I start. If the paint is very wet and I'm picking up a really lot of purple and I lose the brightness of the white, I just a little swipe on my paper towel, get the dirty brush a little cleaner, and then go back with some. It's nice to have some brighter petals and some lighter ones. And you could do this with pinks. You could do this with reds or oranges, whatever color. You could mix these all up and have different shades. But I'm going to go ahead now and add the rest of those in. And like I said, I just start with the purple strokes like I did on the back there. Kind of fun sometimes just to sit and practice your brush strokes. You could do a lot of florals with just one stroke method, which I do a lot. And I'll do some more on my segments too if you'd like. Let me know too what you'd like to see me paint on my segments. I'd love to address some kind of different subjects too. I sometimes don't know what I'm going to paint until the morning before I come on with you guys, so it's always a challenge. Hi, Terry Lynn. Good morning. Thanks for popping on. It's really fun to start the day out with painting, and that's another thing. This is a 45-minute segment. Look at how much we're going to get done. What do we have left? We have 10 whole minutes. So it doesn't have to be, I don't have time to paint. That's the biggest, number one thing I hear from my people, that I just don't have time. But take 20 minutes, take 30 minutes a day. Just say, okay, I'm only going to take 30 minutes or 20 minutes. You'd be surprised how much you can get done, and how much it once you start and then you sit down and do it for a few minutes, you're amped up and you can't wait till tomorrow to do it again. So just start. Just say, I don't have to spend 3 hours. I can sit down for 20 minutes, or I can just sit down at my desk or my table and just rearrange and organize my paints and my supplies. That's enough sometimes to get you started, just to sit down and organize. And I know it's hard to find a place sometimes, but really just a little corner of some place is enough. You don't need a big studio. You don't need a lot of things. You could just very, very simple. You could sit even with just a sketchbook and some colored pencils or markers and just sketch and put some ideas down on paper. You can bring creativity in your day very easily, not a lot of time or a big investment, and it just makes you feel like, I don't know, a little bit happier, I think. So we're just going right along there. Oh, Cam, yes. And you were painting, the bunny, yes. I love that little bunny, because she doesn't have to be for Easter. She could be for any time. Remember, these are always recorded. They're always on my page. I usually upload them, and you can find them easily. And if you can't, and you saw something and you want to get a replay, let me know. I usually put them on YouTube. I have a lot of little free classes on YouTube too, on my channel, Tinker's Cart Art. So check it out too if you want to paint a little more in depth with a little bit longer of a class too. But I think these little segments are fabulous. Hey Virginia, thank you. These are just readers, but they're my prescription readers, but I got them from Zenni's. Zenni Optical online. It pops up if you just put it in, and the glasses are so reasonably priced, and they have some funky, cool ones. And if I, run them over with my car, like I've done, or stepped on them or lost them, I can replace them, and they're not so expensive. Okay, so that's one little flower, one quick little one stroke flower. So we're going to do those little spirally rose ones. Whatever shape you want to use. I'm going to go into my pink here. Again, it's going to be kind of dark, but I'm going to lay it in. And I'm going to do it on the back so you can see maybe, because when I do a spiral, if I do a sun or a moon or anything that's round, I don't care if it's not perfectly round. I start in the middle and I spiral it out. And if I'm doing a moon or something, I like when it gets a little frayed on the end. And then I go with a light inside it. But this is the stroke I'm using for these guys. I can simply put them down pretty quickly. And I can probably do quite a few of these and keep it. If the paint's a little thick, so I'm going to go and put them where I want them. If the paint were to dry and I couldn't get my nice little light color stroked through, I just re-wet it. It's fine. And these I'm just going to place different places. And again, all your elements don't have to be separate in a separate space. You could kind of overlap too, which is kind of natural. That's what would happen when you're out in a field of wild flowers, right? So I could get crazy too. I got to sometimes learn to stop. There's kind of a lot there. Make some little ones. We could make some little ones. Great little way to make like roses, say. So there we are. I've just got a bunch spiraled on there. And I'm going to take my round brush now. And I might do two separate steps. I might take my bigger round brush, something like that. And I'm going to take some white paint. My paint is very thick. It's dried up so much. So I just might take a few drops of water and thin that down. Just keep the paint ink consistency in your head, and rather than heavy thick paint. And I'm just simply going to go into each one, and because it's wet, it will become more pink than white, which is what I want. Just plop it in the middle, spiral it. Doesn't have to be fancy. Look at how quick that was. I'm still going to go on with a little brighter white, but for now, just a little white, plop it in the middle, and it's great when the pink is really wet like that, because it just kind of blends. It's so simple. Just kind of do that. I spiral it out along the edge a little bit. Mostly I'm getting a little more white for each flower. So I think I will. And if I've picked up a lot of the pink, I just dry it in my paper towel, then take more white. Sometimes it's just nice to keep a paper towel handy to do that because I'm always using some sort of a dry brush method a lot of times. These little guys are just a little spiral. I've done this in my in-person paint classes a lot. People love this painting. And it's fun to see all the colors. You could do some yellow flower. You could use any color you want and just change these flowers up. You could have multicolored of these roses. They don't have to all be pink. So that is the base. I did the dark, like a circly blob. I just took some white on top, dragged through the pink so it was lighter. I'm going to take a finer brush now, just my little detail brush. To do these spirals, I think that the liner brush gets too wonky and wobbly, so I go back to my little liner for this. And hey, Lisa Marie, good morning. I'm so excited. My friend Lisa Marie is on, and she lives in Alabama, and we are all getting together in Destin, Florida tomorrow, a group of online craft membership people. So I'm so excited to see you. It'll be so fun. And now, I want this paint again. I know I keep hammering it away, but just really thin down this time for these little strokes. I have 4 minutes, so I'm going to quickly show you these. And I've been gabbing too much this morning. That's the problem. But again, I'm going to just prove to you, you don't need a lot of time to paint every day. You see how I'm just making those spirals right over what I had there? Keep the paint thin, keep it strong white, and just do some spirals. And I love it when they kind of spiral out over the flower and just kind of go out into the grasses. So can you see, this isn't realistic. These aren't real flowers. I'm not striving to make it look like a rose. I could, but that would be an awful lot of work. I think it's fun and whimsical to do this. And those little daisy flowers are so simple. They're just one stroke. Then I put a center in them. And a lot of times I just put like 3 petals peeking out from something, not like a whole flower. And so I'd appreciate if you guys would, follow me here on Facebook. I know that's not a word we're supposed to say, but anyway, share with your friends. Let them know I'm here painting. Look me up on the socials. I'm on YouTube. You can see lots of classes there. The link to my private group is there. If you want any information about membership, I'll try to remember to post it, but you can always message me. So I like to use a brush for this last little flower, the little square flat, because it's about the same size as a petal. You could do it with the round brush too. I just use that same kind of stroke, press and pull in, and you know what, I can get around. I would like a little filbert for this really, but, so I make the whole flower from the outside of the petal pulling towards the center. That's kind of important. And because yellow is so transparent, I'm going to pop a little center in there in white. I'm going to make that yellow really show up more when we're ready to put that in. And so now I just go along, and like I said, lots of times it's like 3 little petals peeking out from behind something. Fill it in wherever you want, as few or as many. Just do those little petals outside in, outside, a little pressure in. And you can do a whole little flower. You can do a little section. And I just fill it in because it's a little dark around here. So these brighten it up. Putting my little center in white as I go along. And these are little elements you can use in different paintings. You might say, oh, I love that little rose technique, and just do those on some painting or add them to a painting you're doing. Same with these little guys are great for bouquets, little landscapes, putting some flowers in the front that are a little bit more, in detail, but they could be very small. You could do them with the detail brush, tiny. And then I just wipe off my brush, go into the yellow and pop those centers in. And if you did this without the little, like here's one I didn't do the base, it's much duller. I like to put a little white base, pop in the yellow. I'm going to go back and take a look at your comments and questions. Thank you guys. Oh, Wanda, great. Oh, Deb, yeah, don't you? I like the whimsical look. Charlotte, where are you? Lupin, that's it. You're right, because I go up sometimes in New Hampshire when it's the Lupin Festival and the lupins are out. I tried to grow them once. I told you I'm not a green thumb. But, so there we have it. What do you think? I don't know if I forgot some there. So that's what it looks like. Again, very different than my sample, so I can't paint like myself either, so don't try. And I so appreciate you guys coming out in the morning. I hope you all enjoy your day. We're wrapping up. And Blissful Crafts and Designs by Debbie Lee. Stay tuned, and we will see you next time. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching.